I am looking for dead branches. This tree was very full over summer and some of the branches have died back. And I want to remove them before we hit winter. Now if you look at this tree, it has a gorgeous color. But you can also see the leaves are quite large. That is normal. This species doesn't get very small leaves. In fact, the normal leaves are about that size. So this has a very, very full canopy in the middle of summer. I continuously remove leaves, I continuously prune back, but still over time it gets so full that on the inside some of these branches die back. Here there's a little dead branch, there's a little dead branch, and I'm going to remove all of those because I want to reduce fungal infections in my tree. For this species I'm not all that concerned, but if you look at a big Japanese maple like this one, it really is important to make sure that all the dead branches are gone. This tree has now been with me for about 3 weeks. It was growing in a field before that, and all the leaves are now off. And now I can really see the structure, but I can also tell that a lot of these branches are dead. And you can recognize these dead branches on their color. If you look here, this is a green with gray barked branch. And here this side branch is almost completely white. And if you compare that to the branches that are just next to it, they are completely green. Now this I can just probably pop off like this, just like that. There's a little bit of a bit left over, and in spring I will cut this flush, but for now I'm going to leave it like this. By removing all this, I have significantly reduced the potential for fungal infection on dead wood, which can later on enter the living tissue. And this I now go and do throughout the tree. I'm going to remove all these little dead pieces. Unfortunately, not everything is just small branches. Here there is larger branches that also have died off. Some with some living tissue on it, but most of it dead. So I'm just removing all these big branches. With that, I'm increasing airflow in the tree. I am reducing the dead parts on which fungal infections can grow. And I basically just prepared for a healthy start in the new year. I do not like to create big wounds in fall, because there's going to be months of hardly any grow or recovery. So at this point, I'm just removing the dead sections, and I'm trying to not cut into the living tissue. And I'll do that cleanup in spring once I look at the further styling of the tree. I'm just removing old died off branches right now. So why am I now removing the leaves? Actually, I'm only removing the leaves because I now want to see better. I want to see better where the branches are, and I need to check which ones are alive and which are dead and clean that out. And with leaves on them, it is very difficult to see. I could just let the leaves drop naturally. Of course, in another video of mine where I explain how to prepare your trees for winter, I tell you to take off the leaves. But that is really when you're finalizing your tree for winter storage. That is when you don't want any debris on your pot. You don't want any leaves on the plant. You want to remove all the hiding places for insects and other creepers that like to eat on your trees. Now it is completely bare. Let's see whether we can find some of these dead trees. I have a lamp here. I'm going to bring it closer so we can actually see what's going on. Now what you can see here with this branch is that this part is not as vibrantly red as the branches around it. Here it has started to discolor, it started to die off, and on the top of it, hard to see for you, but on the top there's also some dead sections. So this will over winter completely die off, and that is the direct cause of the denseness of this part of the canopy. And if we zoom out a little bit, there are more branches that are suffering. This one here is dead. You can see it is already turned grayish brown, so that can go completely. Now here this one is suffering. It is not healthy. It is also a duller red, but I'm going to leave it in place. This one I am going to remove, just like that. Then here we also see a little bit of dieback in the trunk here, so I'm going to reduce that. I'm going to just take it back all the way here. That way this area is now a lot opener, and probably over summer a new bud will spring from one of these branches here or there. Assuming that I keep it nice and open. And here something similar is happening. So this is where I removed the branch before, and here in exactly the same dark part of the tree there is a dead little side branch here. This is unfortunately what happens once a tree gets older, mature, and you don't thin it out enough over summer. Another one is here in the back. Another one here. This branch is still okay. This is all okay. I think that is most of it. It is a little stub. But now it is of course the question, how do I prevent this from happening? And what can I do now for next year? Because here in the top there's another one that's dead as well. Well, quite simply said, to minimize or reduce the branch dieback for next year, what I'm going to have to do is open up the canopy. I can do that either by thinning it out completely. I don't really want to because I really like these branches in the bright red. Or I need to put some tension wires and or other wires on these main branches so the canopy spreads open more. That will, in spring, facilitate sunlight on the inside of the canopy. It is a bit of a sad thing to do because I really grow this one for the nice red branches. And they are only visible in winter. In fact, it will go a lot redder over the next couple of months. And now there will be wire everywhere on the tree. But this is about long-term prettiness and not short-term pleasure, I suppose. Yeah. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just wire out some of the main branches, pulling them out, down, opening up the canopy for next year. And in spring, of course, I'm going to more frequently have to thin out the foliage than I've been doing this year. Now I'm not going to look too carefully on which branches I wire or how, because this will only be on for a couple of months. In spring, as the tree starts to wake up, I am going to remove this again and hope that by then this wire has done its thing. Right now we are in mid-November. There's still quite a few months ahead of us before the spring. Long branches without side branches I am going to reduce a little bit. Here is another branch that I don't trust. Let me remove that as well. I don't know where my normal scissors are. And this way I'm just opening up the canopy for next season. I'm using here 1.5 mils of aluminium wire, and this is plenty for these thin branches. And as you see, I only use a few loops around a branch. This is not about prettiness, this is just about opening up. But yeah. And I say it's not about prettiness, which is actually against my regular philosophy. If you wire pretty, then you wire well. You think about where the wire needs to go and where you don't need wire. So I should actually not do this in a hasty manner, I should just do it properly. Thinning out also here and there a few branches that are just double, and that will reduce the number of leaves per branch, and with that more sunlight will get into the tree. I notice that when I start working and talking, my speech becomes slow. Might be positive because it's thoughtful. On the other hand, it could also become a little bit boring. Let me know in the comments whether you'd like me to stop talking and working at the same time, or just do the voiceover at a later stage. In fact, if you don't see a lot of my videos, this is one of the first that you're watching. If you do like it, maybe consider subscribing and you get a little alert when a new video comes out. Now, as you are wiring out the tree, make sure that you also have scissors at hand, so you can thin out, you can remove all the little old middle stubs that are left in place. Basically doing pruning and wiring in one go works really well for the finer work. And a tree doesn't need to be wired completely every single time. Just wire the branches that need wire. No need to... Right, just like that. Anchor this properly. You know what happened to me recently? I used to have these nice little small clippers for wire. Can't find them anywhere. I think they have disappeared somewhere in a bag with substrate. So when I'm sifting my substrate, maybe in a couple of weeks, all of a sudden my old wire clipper scissors come up. And otherwise I have to buy new ones. So yeah, this happens to everybody, right? We misplace our tools sometimes. It's too bad because I really like them. And otherwise I'll have to buy new ones. Don't like buying stuff. Except for trees. I love buying trees. Now the dying of branches you can see happening here mostly here in the top. And this is just due to poor pruning practices, where it has been pruned so often in the same spot that at a certain point the tree just dies. But the rest is mostly of branches that are more on the inside of the tree, and it is a sign that the tree has been too full, which is logical because this tree in the field is just grown and then cut in profile multiple times per year. It gets really dense, and on the inside just branches die off. So preventing dieback of your inner crown can be done by just making sure you keep it wide and open. If you wait too late, then this is what you get. You get branches on the inside dying off. That's not so bad for nursery stock that needs to be grown out as a bonsai, because I just want the trunk and maybe a few primary branches, but the rest I'll grow myself over the years. But if this is a bonsai, then it's a much bigger concern, because you might lose structural branches on the inside, and then you get a very open inside with no regeneration, so you can't prune back. So yeah, pruning back during the season is important, but also removing the outer crown. Right now I've removed pretty much all the dead branches that I can see, just like that. I'm not going to be all too pedantic about it. There's of course all sorts of little stubs left on places where there was pruning. Not too worried about those. I'm more worried about the big branches on the inside, where fungal infections can more easily take place than on the outside. This all came from this one tree, so quite a lot of that material has been removed. It is a lot opener now, and now it's just a matter, just like the other trees, I'm just going to spray it against aphids and other overwintering insects with a winter spray. And with that, this whole tree is now wired out, pruned back, thinned. I think this is ready for winter. Just a tiny little branch here that sticks out. But yeah, so this is what I do to stop dieback. First of all, I remove all the branches that are already dead so that it can't further infect the tree. Then I prune out the tree to remove all the triplicates or branches that are in awkward position. And then I fan out these branches. And in early spring, once it starts growing, I make sure that I open up the canopy regularly so that sunlight gets to all the branches in the tree. And that is pretty much all there is to it, as far as I'm concerned. Now there's a few more clumps that I do see here of branches that are just heavy, overgrown, and I can still remove a few. But be careful that you don't overdo it. You do want the tree to remain a tree with branches, right? This was Jelle, growing bonsai with avoiding dieback of branches. See you next time.